Picture the South China Sea in 2035. A Royal Australian Navy task group receives flash traffic. A hostile submarine has been detected stalking a coalition convoy. The Admiral has 2 frigates available. One displaces 10,000 tons, carries the most advanced anti-submarine sonar system on Earth, and costs nearly $9 billion. The other weighs barely half as much, operates with a crew of 90 sailors, and costs less than $1 billion. Which ship do you send? This is not a hypothetical. Australia has committed to building both vessels. 6 Hunter-class frigates at a combined $45 billion. 11 upgraded Mogami-class frigates at roughly $10 billion. The ships have the same number of missile tubes. They embody radically different philosophies and a strategic gamble that assumes both ships can fight alongside each other when the time comes. The question driving this video is not which frigate is better. It is whether Australia's 2-track approach creates a superior combined fleet or introduces dangerous operational compromises that could prove fatal in combat. If you find naval strategy and defense technology fascinating, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Now let us break down these 2 warships. To understand why Australia is building 2 completely different frigates, we need to grasp what each ship was designed to do. The Hunter class is a dedicated submarine hunter. Based on the British Type 26 global combat ship, it carries the Thales Sonar 2087 towed array and variable depth sonar, a system so sensitive it can detect submarines at ranges exceeding 60 kilometers. The ship's hull incorporates acoustic dampening technology inherited from decades of Royal Navy anti-submarine warfare doctrine. Every aspect of the Hunter, from its propulsion arrangement to its internal machinery mounting, is optimized to be quiet. In the undersea domain, silence equals survival. But that specialization comes at a cost. The Hunter displaces roughly 10,000 tons fully loaded, making it heavier than many World War II heavy cruisers. It requires a crew of 180 sailors, and at current estimates, each ship costs between 7.5 and 9 billion Australian dollars, a figure that has tripled since the program began. The Upgraded Mogami represents the opposite philosophy. Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force designed the Mogami class as a multi-mission frigate, capable of anti-surface warfare, anti-submarine operations, and even mine countermeasures. The baseline version carries a crew of just 90, down from 220 on its predecessor class. This dramatic reduction comes from revolutionary automation, including a bridge that can theoretically be operated by a single sailor. The upgraded Mogami variant being built for Australia stretches the hull by 10 meters, adds 1,000 tons of displacement, and doubles the vertical launch system cells from 16 to 32. Critically, it retains the small crew philosophy while adding range, 10,000 nautical miles compared to the Hunter's 7,000 nautical miles. Here is where the comparison becomes striking. Both ships carry 32 Mark 41 vertical launch system cells. Both can fire the same missiles: Standard Missile 2, Standard Missile 6, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and quad-packed Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles. On paper, their offensive firepower is identical. Yet the Hunter costs roughly 8 to 10 times more per vessel. The obvious question is, what does that premium actually buy? And more importantly, does it matter in a real fight? Let us run through 3 operational scenarios that reveal how these ships would actually perform. A hostile diesel-electric submarine is operating in the approaches to a critical choke point. The task group commander needs to sanitize the area before a high-value convoy transits. This is the Hunter's domain. The Sonar 2087 system gives the Hunter a detection envelope that dwarfs anything the Mogami carries. The Japanese ship mounts the AUKUS variable depth sonar and towed array, which is capable, but not in the same league. Former Royal Navy officer Jennifer Parker, who served on Type 23 frigates equipped with earlier versions of the 2087, has noted that the Hunter's superior sound dampening technology makes it a fundamentally more capable anti-submarine platform. In this scenario, the Hunter can detect and track the submarine from a safer distance, then either engage with its Mu-90 torpedoes or vector in coalition aircraft for the prosecution. The Mogami would need to close the range significantly, increasing its own vulnerability. Winner: Hunter class. Decisively. Intelligence indicates a hostile surface action group is approaching Australian waters. The task group needs to intercept and deter or destroy the threat. Here, the calculus shifts. The upgraded Mogami is faster, more than 30 knots, compared to the Hunter's 27 knots. It has a range of 10,000 nautical miles, so it can reach the engagement area from further away without refueling. And critically, for the cost of a single Hunter, Australia could field 9 Mogamis. In surface warfare, numbers matter. Distributed lethality, spreading offensive firepower across multiple platforms, has become a cornerstone of modern naval doctrine because it forces an adversary to solve multiple targeting problems simultaneously. 9 ships carrying 32 missiles each present a far more complex threat than a single ship carrying the same loadout. The Mogami also carries Type 17 anti-ship missiles in Japanese service, though the Australian variant will mount Kongsberg naval strike missiles. Either way, its surface warfare capability is fully equivalent to the Hunter's. Winner, upgraded Mogami. The speed, range, and sheer numbers advantage is decisive. This is where theory meets brutal reality. A conflict in the Indo-Pacific drags on for months. Ships sustain damage, crews suffer fatigue, supply chains strain under the pressure of supporting a fleet at war. The Hunter's crew of 180 suddenly looks less like a liability and more like an asset. Larger crews mean more bodies for damage control, more sailors to rotate through watch stations, and more resilience when exhaustion sets in. A retired Australian flag officer, cited in analysis from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, warned that the Mogami's crew of roughly 90 would result in exhaustion after a fortnight on operations. He called small crews the great vice of modern warship design. There is another factor. The Hunter and Mogami use completely different combat management systems. The Hunter runs Aegis with a Saab Australian interface. The Mogami uses Japan's OYQ-1 system. Training sailors to operate both systems is feasible, but complicated. Maintaining 2 entirely separate supply chains for spare parts, technical publications, and software updates creates logistical friction that could prove crippling in a long war. Winner, contested. The Hunter has advantages in crew resilience. The Mogami's automation could prove either a strength or a critical vulnerability, depending on circumstances. If you have made it this far, you clearly care about understanding how these systems actually work. Please consider hitting subscribe and dropping a like. It helps more than you might think. Now let us examine the complications that could undermine this entire strategy. The operational analysis above assumes both ships are available when needed. That assumption deserves scrutiny. The first Hunter-class frigate, HMAS Hunter, will not deliver until mid-2032 at the earliest. Operational capability is projected for 2034. The 6th and final ship will not arrive until approximately 2044 or 2045. The first upgraded Mogami, built in Japan, is targeted for 2029 delivery with operational capability by 2030. That is a 5-year advantage. In strategic terms, 5 years is an eternity. The window of maximum danger in the Indo-Pacific, the period when a conflict over Taiwan or the South China Sea seems most plausible, falls squarely in the late 2020s to the mid-2030s. If a crisis erupts in 2030, Australia will have Mogamis ready to fight and Hunters still under construction. This timeline mismatch undermines the complementary fleet concept. The Hunter's superior anti-submarine capability only matters if the Hunter exists. A frigate under construction in Adelaide cannot detect submarines in the Philippine Sea. There is a deeper problem. Australia's shipbuilding workforce is already stretched thin. The Osborne Naval Shipyard in South Australia is simultaneously building Hunter-class frigates and will eventually construct SSN AUKUS nuclear submarines. The Henderson facility in Western Australia must absorb the Mogami production line while also maintaining existing fleet units. Finding enough skilled welders, pipe fitters, and electricians to staff both programs is a challenge that grows more acute every year. The Hudson Institute flagged another concern in late 2025. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, the Mogami's builder, has a 4-year order backlog. Japan's own fiscal year 2026 defense budget reduced upgraded Mogami procurement from a planned 5 ships per year to just 1. If MHY cannot expand production capacity fast enough, the Australian timeline could slip. And then there is the question of interoperability. Running two frigate classes with different combat systems, different weapons fits for certain categories, and different maintenance requirements creates what military planners call tail-to-teeth ratio problems. For every dollar spent on combat capability, you need additional dollars for logistics, training, and support infrastructure. Duplicating that support structure for two incompatible ship types is expensive and inefficient. Marcus Hellier, a defense analyst who has tracked the Hunter program for years, summarized the broader dilemma bluntly. 6 frigates are going to cost over $45 billion. It is yet another example of the cost-capability spiral that Western militaries are trapped in. The question is whether Australia has found an escape hatch with the Mogami, or whether it has simply added a second spiral to manage. Despite these complications, there is a strategic logic to Australia's approach that deserves acknowledgement. The Hunter class provides a capability that no other ship in the planned fleet can match. Its anti-submarine warfare suite is genuinely world-class. In a conflict where Chinese or Russian submarines threaten coalition supply lines, having even a small number of dedicated submarine hunters could prove decisive. The premium Australia is paying for 6 hunters is not irrational if those 6 ships provide asymmetric advantages in the undersea domain. The Mogami class provides mass. 11 ships at a fraction of the hunter's cost means more platforms in more places simultaneously. The Royal Australian Navy has historically struggled with having enough hulls to cover its enormous area of responsibility. Adding 11 capable frigates to the fleet addresses that shortage directly. The combination also hedges against uncertainty. If the future naval environment favors distributed operations and long-range missile exchange, the Mogamis are ideally suited. If it favors traditional carrier battle group protection and anti-submarine prosecution, the Hunters excel. Building both preserves options. There is a final point worth considering. Australia's frigate decision is not occurring in isolation. Japan, by selling the Mogami, is executing its first major lethal weapons export since 1945. This deepens the quasi-alliance relationship between Canberra and Tokyo in ways that extend far beyond hardware. Shared supply chains, joint training exercises, technical exchange between navies that will soon operate identical platforms. The AUKUS dilemma, the tension between maintaining UK industrial ties through the Hunter and building Japanese ties through the Mogami, may actually resolve itself through convergence. Japan is a candidate for AUKUS Pillar 2 membership. The Mogami uses American weapons systems throughout. In a coalition war, Australian Mogamis and Hunters would fight alongside British Type 26 frigates, Japanese Mogamis, and American Constellation-class frigates, all sharing missiles, communications links, and tactical doctrine. The question is not whether Australia picked the right frigate. It is whether Australia can build and crew enough frigates of any type before the strategic window closes. We began with a scenario, a task group commander facing a submarine threat with 2 radically different ships at their disposal. The analysis suggests that both ships have roles to play. The Hunter for its unmatched anti-submarine sensors, the Mogami for its speed, range, and numbers advantage in other warfare areas. 6 years of cost escalation. $11 billion already spent on a program that has not delivered a single ship. 11 frigates ordered from a nation that has never exported warships in living memory. 17 vessels that must somehow form a coherent fleet, despite running different combat systems, different crew philosophies, and different national supply chains. The conclusion is not that Australia made the wrong choice. It is that Australia made the only choice available, given the constraints it faces: too few ships, too little time, too much ocean to defend. Whether that choice produces a superior combined fleet or an operational nightmare will not be clear until these ships are tested in waters where the stakes are real. The Hunter and the Mogami are not competitors. They are 2 halves of a bet that Australia's strategic position requires both specialized excellence and affordable mass. The next decade will reveal whether that bet pays off. If this breakdown helped you understand the strategic calculus behind Australia's frigate decisions, please subscribe. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and tell us which ship you would trust in a fight. Thank you for watching.